What if some of the most powerful medicines ever discovered were growing in fields, forests, and backyards? And the only reason you don't know about them is that there's no money in letting you? That's not a conspiracy theory, that's a business model. The pharmaceutical industry generates over $1 trillion a year. And that business depends on one thing: people not knowing that nature already solved most of what they're being prescribed for. When a plant heals freely, it threatens a market. And threatened markets have a way of making inconvenient knowledge disappear. Today, I'm bringing 20 of those plants back. Plants with real research behind them. Plants that were pushed out of the conversation, not because they stopped working, but because they worked too well to be left alone. These are the 20 forgotten medicinal plants that will heal you instantly. Stay with me for number 11. This one wasn't just ignored. It was actively suppressed. The research exists, the results exist, and what happened to it should make you furious. And number 20 closes this list for a reason. Soldiers carried it into battle for centuries because nothing worked faster. It still does. We just stopped teaching people about it. If you believe real health information shouldn't be gatekept behind a prescription pad, hit subscribe. We post deep dives like this every week. Let's get into it. Number 1. Elderberry. The antiviral that the flu industry would rather you forgot about. Elderberry's anthocyanins and flavonoids bind directly to viral particles and block them from entering healthy cells. A randomized trial published in Nutrients found elderberry supplementation reduced influenza duration by an average of 4 days compared to placebo. 4 days. The same result that expensive antivirals chase. The flu medication market is worth over $5 billion annually, and a berry that grows wild across the northern hemisphere and cuts flu duration in half isn't something that market wants prominently discussed. Elderberry syrup, 1 tablespoon 4 times daily at the first sign of symptoms. Always cooked or processed, never raw. Number 2 grows in gardens worldwide, and most people have no idea it's one of the most effective wound healing agents ever studied. Number 2. Calendula. The skin healer that topical antibiotic manufacturers don't want you growing in your garden. Calendula's triterpenoids and flavonoids promote collagen production, reduce inflammation, and demonstrate antimicrobial activity against both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. A clinical trial found calendula cream performed comparably to prescription topical treatments for post-surgical wound healing, without the antibiotic resistance risk. A flower anyone can grow in a pot does the same job as a pharmacy product, so it stayed in the garden and off the shelf. Apply calendula-infused cream directly to wounds, burns, and irritated skin. Look for at least 10% calendula concentration, or infuse dried flowers in olive oil for 4 weeks to make your own. Number 3 grows wild across North America and Europe, and was the go-to respiratory medicine before the pharmaceutical industry invented the inhaler. Number 3. Malign. The lung medicine that predates every respiratory drug on the market. Malign's saponins thin mucus secretions, and its anti-inflammatory compounds reduce bronchial irritation. Research confirms antimicrobial activity against respiratory pathogens, including Mycobacterium tuberculosis, in laboratory settings. Traditional healers used it for what we now call COPD long before that diagnosis existed. The global respiratory drug market exceeds $50 billion, and malign grows as a roadside weed across most of the United States, costs almost nothing, and addresses bronchial conditions without creating pharmaceutical dependency. Malign leaf tea, 2 teaspoons steeped 15 minutes, strained through cloth to remove fine hairs, 2 to 3 cups daily for active respiratory issues. Number 4 overlaps directly with one of the most profitable drug categories in the world, and does the job without the dependency. Number 4. Lemon balm, the natural anxiolytic that the anti-anxiety medication industry prefers you don't know about. Lemon balm's rosmarinic acid inhibits GABA transaminase, the same general mechanism exploited by benzodiazepine medications, without dependency, tolerance, or withdrawal. A double-blind study found it significantly reduced anxiety in participants under laboratory-induced psychological stress. It also shows antiviral activity against herpes simplex, a separate benefit the pharmaceutical market would rather keep quiet. The global anti-anxiety market is worth over $20 billion annually. Lemon balm tea, 1 to 2 teaspoons steeped 10 minutes. Combines well with valerian for sleep with passion flower for acute stress. One plant in your garden provides a lifetime supply. Number 5 affects half the population, and the pharmaceutical solution for it comes with a side effect list that fills an entire page. Number 5. Red clover, the hormone balancer that the HRT industry spent decades ignoring. Red clover isoflavones interact with estrogen receptors and have been shown in multiple clinical trials to reduce hot flash frequency and severity by 40 to 50% in menopausal women, while protecting bone density and cardiovascular markers, the exact outcomes synthetic hormone replacement therapy targets, without the elevated cancer risk association that has followed HRT for decades. It grows freely across North America and Europe, can't be patented, and validating it publicly would raise uncomfortable questions about the necessity of synthetic HRT for millions of women. Standardized extract 40 to 80 milligrams of isoflavones daily. Not recommended for hormone-sensitive cancers without physician guidance. Number 6 might be the most insulting plant on this list, because it's been growing under your feet this entire time. Number 6. Plantain, the sidewalk weed that outperforms most over-the-counter treatments for bites, stings, and skin infections. Plantago major contains aucubin and allantoin, compounds with documented anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and tissue-regenerating properties. Applied to insect bites, stings, or minor wounds, fresh plantain leaf reduces swelling and pain within minutes, draws toxins, reduces histamine response, and accelerates cellular repair simultaneously. The topical treatment market for bites and skin irritation is worth hundreds of millions annually, and a backyard weed solves the same problems in minutes for free. Crush or chew a fresh leaf and apply directly to the affected area. It is almost certainly growing within walking distance of where you are right now. Number 7 takes us to South America, a plant whose antifungal properties rival prescription medications and that pharmaceutical companies couldn't figure out how to own. Number 7. Pau d'Arco, the Amazonian antifungal that pharmaceutical companies couldn't patent. Pau d'Arco's inner bark contains lapachol and beta-lapachone, with documented antifungal activity against Candida species comparable to pharmaceutical antifungals, as well as antiparasitic and antibacterial properties. Brazilian physicians used it extensively in the mid-20th century before research funding dried up and shifted to patentable antifungal drugs. It can't be owned. It's a tree that grows in the Amazon, so there was no financial path from the research to a proprietary product. Pau d'Arco tea, 1 teaspoon of dried bark simmered 20 minutes. 2 to 3 cups daily for active antifungal support over 4 to 6 weeks. Avoid during pregnancy. Number 8 comes from the rainforest too, and its anti-inflammatory power has been studied extensively while being almost completely ignored in the United States. Number 8, cat's claw, the Amazonian anti-inflammatory that the arthritis drug industry prefers to keep exotic. Cat's claw alkaloids target TNF-alpha and NF-κB, the same inflammatory pathways as several expensive biologic arthritis medications. A European clinical trial found it reduced painful joints by 53% over 52 weeks. Biologic medications for rheumatoid arthritis can cost $30,000 or more per year. Cat's claw grows in the Peruvian rainforest and has no proprietary pathway, so the pharmaceutical industry never invested in the trials needed to bring it into mainstream clinical practice. Standardized bark extract, 250 to 350 milligrams twice daily. Not for use during pregnancy or with blood thinners. Consistent use over 8 to 12 weeks for meaningful results. Number 9 was banned, not because it didn't work, but specifically because it worked too well. Number 9. Comfrey, the tissue healer that regulators pulled from shelves while leaving far more dangerous drugs in place. Comfrey's allantoin accelerates cell proliferation and tissue repair at a rate almost nothing else in nature matches, earning the folk name knitbone. A clinical trial found Comfrey cream outperformed diclofenac gel for ankle sprain recovery. Internal use was restricted due to alkaloid content. A legitimate concern, but that restriction was extended to topical products as well. Meanwhile, NSAIDs with documented cardiovascular and gastrointestinal risks remained freely available everywhere. The risk standard applied to Comfrey was never applied evenly. Comfrey cream or oil applied topically to bruises, sprains, and joint injuries, never on open wounds. Results typically visible within 48 to 72 hours. Number 10 was used by Native Americans for centuries, and what it does to free radicals made regulators move against it in a way the science never justified. Number 10. Chaparral, the desert antioxidant more powerful than vitamin E that regulators made nearly impossible to sell. Chaparral's nordyhydroguaretic acid is one of the most potent antioxidants ever identified in a plant, with demonstrated anti-inflammatory, antiviral, and anti-proliferative properties in research settings. Native American tribes used it for arthritis, respiratory infections, and skin conditions for thousands of years. The FDA restricted it in the 1990s following adverse event reports never conclusively linked to the plant, reports that wouldn't have passed the scrutiny applied to pharmaceutical drugs with similar profiles. Chaparral had no corporate sponsor to fund its defense. Most accessible today as a topical preparation for skin conditions and arthritis. Source carefully and use conservatively. Potency means dosing matters. I want to stop here for a moment and give you something. Not because I have to, but because if you're the kind of person who watches a video like this all the way through, you deserve more than information. You deserve something you can actually use. So I put together a practical companion guide for everything we're covering. Dosing, preparation, combinations, what you need to know before you start. The kind of resource you keep in your kitchen, not on a shelf. It's in the first pinned comment below. No pressure at all. But if you're serious about this, I think you'll find it invaluable. 10 more plants. And the second half of this list is where it gets truly uncomfortable for the industry. Let's keep going. Number 11. Bloodroot. The skin cancer treatment that was actively suppressed and the researchers who proved it were discredited. Bloodroot's sanguinarine induces apoptosis, programmed cell death, in abnormal skin cells while leaving healthy cells relatively unaffected. Practitioners have used it for decades to address basal cell carcinoma and superficial skin malignancies with documented results. The dermatology and oncology industries generate hundreds of billions annually. A plant compound that selectively destroys abnormal skin cells outside the prescription system threatens that revenue directly. Researchers who published positive results faced professional discrediting. Regulatory agencies moved aggressively against practitioners using it. The suppression of bloodroot is one of the most documented cases of industry-influenced regulatory action in natural medicine history. Use only under guidance of a qualified clinical herbalist. Concentration and method are everything. Number 12 affects over 1 billion people worldwide, and the pharmaceutical solution often makes the original problem worse over time. Number 12. Feverfew, the migraine plant that the triptan medication industry never wanted to go mainstream. Feverfew's parthenolide inhibits platelet aggregation and prostaglandin synthesis, mechanisms directly relevant to migraine pathophysiology. A landmark double-blind trial in The Lancet found daily Feverfew significantly reduced migraine frequency and severity. Multiple subsequent trials confirmed the results. Triptan medications generate over $3 billion annually. Feverfew is a perennial herb that grows easily in any garden and has 30 years of clinical evidence behind it. Neurologists who mention it typically frame it as unproven, a characterization that requires ignoring The Lancet. 2 to 3 small fresh leaves daily in food, or standardized capsules at 0.2% parthenolide minimum. Consistent daily use for prevention. Minimum 3 months to assess full effect. Not for use during pregnancy. Number 13 threatens 2 pharmaceutical markets simultaneously, and that might be exactly why it disappeared. Number 13. Motherwort, the heart and anxiety plant that threatened 2 pharmaceutical markets at once. Motherwort alkaloids reduce heart rate, mildly lower blood pressure, act as a uterine tonic, and deliver anxiolytic effects comparable to mild sedatives, all without dependency or significant side effects. It addresses anxiety and cardiac irregularity simultaneously in a population where those 2 conditions very frequently coexist. Cardiovascular and anti-anxiety medications together are worth hundreds of billions annually. A plant that bridges both with no dependency risk has no market incentive behind its validation, so it was classified as a folk remedy and left there. Tincture, 2 to 4 milliliters in water up to 3 times daily. Results for heart palpitations driven by anxiety are often felt within the first hour. Avoid during pregnancy. Number 14 doesn't just address anxiety. It does so without creating the dependency that makes stopping harder than starting. Number 14. Skullcap, the nerve tonic that the benzodiazepine industry needed people to forget. Skullcap's bicolin modulates GABA receptors with anxiolytic effects documented in multiple studies, without sedation, cognitive impairment, or dependence. It also demonstrates neuroprotective properties, actively protecting neurons from oxidative damage. Benzodiazepines are among the most dependency-creating drugs in modern medicine. Millions cannot stop taking them because withdrawal is genuinely dangerous. A plant that addresses the same nervous system dysregulation without creating a customer for life has no place in a system built around recurring prescriptions. Skullcap tincture, 1 to 2 milliliters up to 3 times daily. Gentle anxiolytic effect without daytime sedation. Well documented for supporting benzodiazepine withdrawal under appropriate professional supervision. Number 15 is a mushroom, and what it does to the immune system in serious illness leaked out of the research despite significant institutional resistance. Number 15. Turkey tail mushroom, the immune modulator whose cancer research the FDA tried to bury and couldn't. Turkey tail's polysaccharide K has been an approved cancer treatment adjunct in Japan since the 1980s, used alongside chemotherapy to improve survival outcomes in gastric, colorectal, and breast cancer patients across multiple randomized trials. A 2012 NIH-funded study found it significantly improved immune function in breast cancer patients following radiation. The research is peer-reviewed, replicable, and substantial. In the United States, it remains classified as a supplement, a designation that limits what can be said about it and who recommends it, while a mushroom that demonstrably improves cancer survival outcomes sits freely available on health food store shelves. Dual extraction capsules or powder, 1 to 3 grams daily. Number 16 is one that even the herbal community handles with deep respect, because it's powerful enough to demand it. Number 16. Poke root, the lymphatic medicine erased from practice because it worked on conditions that are enormously profitable to treat. Poke root's lectins, pokeweed mitogens, are among the most potent lymphocyte stimulants ever studied, used in immunology research as laboratory tools to this day. 19th century eclectic physicians used low-dose preparations for lymphatic congestion, breast lumps, chronic infections, and inflammatory conditions with results documented across 150 years of American botanical medical literature. It was eliminated from clinical practice through the Flexner Report restructuring of American medical education, a process funded partly by pharmaceutical-aligned interests that systematically removed from curricula anything that couldn't be patented. Not a home remedy, requires guidance from a clinical herbalist, included here because its suppression is historically instructive. Number 17 operates at the cellular level, at the part of your DNA that determines how fast you age. Number 17. Astragalus, the longevity plant whose active compound inspired a pharmaceutical that costs $40,000 a year. Astragalus' cycloastragenol activates telomerase, the enzyme that maintains telomere length, one of the primary biological mechanisms associated with cellular aging. A pharmaceutical derivative called TA65 was isolated, patented, and is sold for thousands of dollars per month. The source compound comes from a plant used freely in Chinese medicine for 2,000 years. The anti-aging research won a Nobel Prize in 2009. The industry response was to extract, patent, and price it beyond reach, while the source plant remained available, affordable, and almost entirely ignored in mainstream health media. Astragalus root tea or standardized extract capsules. One of the safest plants in the herbal pharmacopoeia, add dried root slices directly to soups and broths for daily use. Number 18 was standard American medicine for 200 years, and then vanished from awareness in a single generation. Number 18. Boneset, the fever and flu medicine that American healers relied on for 2 centuries before it was quietly erased. Boneset's immunostimulant polysaccharides and sesquiterpene lactones support immune activation with documented antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties. Civil War field medics carried it specifically for influenza-like illness, because nothing else reliably addressed the deep bone aching that gave it its name. It fell out of use not because research disproved it, but because the Flexner Report restructured American medicine around pharmaceutical products and ended botanical medicine as a recognized clinical practice in one generation, a casualty of institutional restructuring, not scientific invalidation. Boneset tea, 1 teaspoon of dried herbs steeped 15 minutes, taken warm during acute fever or flu. Intensely bitter. Tincture available for those who prefer it. Acute use only, not for long-term daily consumption. Number 19 does something almost no single plant does, supporting two systems that modern medicine almost always treats as completely separate. Number 19. Wood batoni, the nerve and digestive plant that fell through the gap between two pharmaceutical categories. Wood batoni's stachydrine alkaloids and tannins act simultaneously on the nervous system and the digestive tract, reducing tension headaches, improving gastric motility, calming visceral hypersensitivity, and supporting adrenal function under stress. This bidirectional gut-brain action makes it uniquely suited to the enormous population whose digestive problems are driven by nervous system dysregulation. It disappeared precisely into the gap between gastroenterology and neurology, two specialties that rarely speak to each other, and was never picked up by either. No market incentive to validate what can't be patented across two separate specialties. Wood betony tea, 1 teaspoon steeped 10 minutes. Pleasant tasting, consistent use over 4 to 6 weeks for meaningful results. And now, number 20, the one I mentioned at the beginning. Soldiers carried it into battle for centuries. It still works just as fast today. Number 20, yarrow, the battlefield medicine that stopped bleeding, fought infection, and reduced fever simultaneously, and that nobody teaches anymore. Achillea millefolium, named for Achilles, who used it to treat his soldiers' wounds, has been used across virtually every culture in the Northern Hemisphere. Its alkaloid achilletin promotes blood clotting on contact. Its volatile oils are antimicrobial against both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Its flavonoids reduce fever through mechanisms that parallel NSAIDs without the gastrointestinal damage. As a complete field medicine, stopping bleeding, fighting infection, and reducing fever in one plant, nothing else matches its profile. It grows wild and free across North America, Europe, and Asia. The wound care, fever, and topical antibiotic markets together represent tens of billions annually. Yarrow eliminates the need for all three. That's not a plant an industry can afford to teach. Fresh leaf directly on wounds for immediate hemostasis. Tea for fever and internal infection. 1 tablespoon dried herb steeped 15 minutes. Learn to identify it. It may be the most useful plant that has ever grown on this earth. Before I close, I need to tell you something. You just watched 20 plants? Every single one. Most people don't. Most click away after the first few and never reach the ones that matter most. The ones that make you angry. The ones that make you realize how much has been deliberately kept from you. But you're still here. And that tells me exactly the kind of person you are. So here's how I want to thank you. Everything I know about preparing, sourcing, and using these plants, dosing, forms, combinations, what you need to know before you start, it's all in a complete practical guide. And right now, for anyone who made it to the end of this video, I'm offering 20% off. Use the code FULLVIDEO at checkout. The link is in the first pinned comment below. No countdown timer, no trick. Just my way of honoring the people who actually show up and pay attention. The code is FULLVIDEO. It's waiting for you in the pinned comment. These 20 plants were not forgotten by accident. They were forgotten by design, through a systematic restructuring of medical education, through regulatory capture, through the economics of a system that profits from treatment and not from prevention. The knowledge didn't disappear because it was wrong. It disappeared because it was right. And right in a system built on recurring revenue is the most inconvenient thing a plant can be. But knowledge doesn't die, it waits. And now you know where to look. Tell me in the comments, which plant are you starting with? Which one made you angry? Which one surprised you most? I read every comment and I want to know what landed. Share this with someone managing a chronic condition. Someone who's been told their only option is a prescription. Someone who deserves to know the options don't start and end at the pharmacy counter. Subscribe and ring the bell. Next week we go even deeper. I'll see you in the next one.